Trustee Neal, you hear us there okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Just want to check in before we start.
Thanks.
All right, and then FYI, everyone, Trustee McCarty texted me and said he'll be here just a little bit late, but he is on the way. And here we go, it's 5:30. All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Elko County School District Board of Trustees to order. If you could all join me for item 1.01, that's the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic under God, indivisible. Thank you. Item 1.02, order and approval of the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. Item 1.03 is recognition of Great American and Great Nevadan Award recipients. Looking for Mrs. Harris and Safford, please. And, sorry? And Ms. Collins. Oh, yeah.
Got it. Can you hear me now?
Perfect. There you go.
Okay. Miss Neal and Miss Ballard came and helped us hand out some awards. CJ was supposed to come and ditched us because he had a senior barbecue to go to. But so they got to come and see that. We're super lucky because a very good friend of mine in Wells, Miss Ashley Hansen, that teaches 5th grade, shared all of their Great American stuff from previous years that was created by Miss Otto was who created it to begin with years ago. And we're even lucky in-house tonight is Miss Jana Wright, who has donated all the American flags in Wells for years and years. So anyways, Ashley shared the Great American stuff with us, with our 5th grade teachers. So we'll be able to show you exactly what that is. And then the 4th grade teachers decided we want to create something similar, going with 4th grade standards and challenging our kids even above and beyond that. So there was a lot of stuff that they had to do at home as well. So you can kind of see the Great American. Miss Collins can tell you everything that they had to
I'm
do.
just going to read from the board up here.
Perfect.
There's quite a bit there. So they had to write the Pledge of Allegiance with no spelling, grammar, or punctuation errors. They also had to recite the first verse of the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner. They had to correctly answer at 90% correct all of the citizenship tests. They had to identify the 50 states on a blank map, match the 50 states and capitals. They had to recite from memory in order all the presidents, so 47 presidents. They had to recite the preamble of the United States Constitution and also recite the Gettysburg Address. So lots of memorization, and they took it upon themselves, most of that memorization. Lot of skills.
Yeah. And then the next slide is everything for the Great Nevadan. I think should be, we had both of those. I don't have it memorized.
Can we get the next slide? There we go.
There we go. So they had to locate Nevada on a United States map. They had to know when Nevada became a state, the day and the year, what state out of the 50 United States it is. They had to know all of our state symbols. So the state bird, animal, fish, fossil, reptile, flower, tree, motto, and slogan. Then they had to name in order all of the governors of Nevada, all 31 of them. They had to be able to sing or say our Nevada state song, Home Means Nevada. They had to draw from memory our Nevada state flag with color. List all 16 counties and county seats of our state, and then construct a map with given human and physical features. So we had a blank map and they had to draw where's Lake Tahoe, where are the Ruby Mountains, where's, all of those things. And then they had to write us an essay. Each class was different. My class had to do 4-paragraph essay on why we celebrate Nevada Day. So quite a bit. A lot of it is standards for 4th and 5th grade, obviously it's state standards, but a lot of it is not, that they just went above and beyond and did at home. So pretty awesome. They did a great job. We had quite a few of them, so they did good.
And the award ceremony is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had all the parents come. We had a couple members of the community in uniform. Miss Collins had come hand out her American flags. And then, you know, we had Miss Ballard and Miss Neal hand out the Nevada flags for the Nevada Award. So it was great, and we hope to continue it. The kids are super excited. Our 4th graders this year that got their Great Nevadan, we challenged them that they have to get their Great American next year. So they're looking forward to it.
That's a very impressive list of requirements there.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
lot of material.
very neat, very neat.
And to see
And it's
that
kind of
many
fun to
names.
piggyback, you know,
Right.
because we've been doing that in Wells for quite a while. And so it's fun to piggyback and build on it and make it even a little bit harder for them, so.
Awesome.
That's it.
Did you want to
Take
read
it
through
down.
that list, or do we want to?
I think-
How are we
I can
doing this
take,
one?
I'll take care of
You
that.
got
Okay.
Pressure's on. In practice, I got every name right. We'll see if I can do it here. But if I don't, I'm apologizing ahead of time. So our Great Nevadan recognitions, and when I call your name, come up and stand right up here. And then we're at the end of the list, we'll do a round of applause and get you your certificate. So we have Kyson Bishop, Ruby Brugado. If you're here, come on up. Aiden Carroll, Landon Chestnut, Kaya Cook, Jen Carlos Cortez, Madsen Dastrup, Evelyn Downing, River Ginter, Daisy Gowan, Dante Gowan, Everly Knotts, Wyatt Lowell, Reed Murphy, Jordan Patty, Alexis Ratazzi, Amelia Schubert, Emily Smith, Jamie Smith, Ren Taylor, Aubrey Terry, Eli Usco, Emma Wilson, and Ryan Yost.
We had quite a few that had baseball and were out of town, so.
And then we have our Great American recognitions too. I'll read those. We have Lita Garcia, Erica Lopez, Callan Mathis, Macy Matson, and Nicholas McGee.
Good job, guys.
If all you guys will turn around, we'll start here, we'll shake your hands, and you can walk down the line and go that way.
Great job on all that work. It's a lot of work, man. Good job. Way to go. Good job. That list is incredible. All the presidents in there. All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if I may, previously, we had a member of the audience that questioned 16 counties when we have 17 counties. Technically, Carson City is a county city, and on April 1st, 1960-something, Ormsby County was absorbed into Carson City. That's why there are 16, not 17.
I was with you there. I didn't want to start an argument either.
I did visit with her. I don't see her in the audience, but I did visit with her on that, so that was why.
Perfect. Well, hopefully they have that memorized too. So, all right, moving on now. We'll go to item 1.04. That's the recognition of spring sports state champions, state runners-up, and all state recipients. And that is going to be me presenting that. So what we're going to do here, we will start with the Wells High School girls track. As I call you, we'll have you come up, and the same way we just did that before. Starting with April Bachman, we've got Millie Cromley as runner-up in the 1,600 and 3,200 meters. Brinley Dahl, Marley Dahl is also the 300-meter hurdle state champion. Natalie Dahl, Lupe Flores, McKinley Erickson, Riley Joe Glasscock, who is also the 100, 200, and 400 meter state champion. Stacy Hansen, Reese Livingstone, Maggie Neff, who's the 1,600 and 3,200 meter state champion and the 800 meter runner-up. We've got Cassidy Runyon, Bella Sanchez, and Olivia Smith. Do we have any? Is it? Oh, gotcha. I will read that when we get there. Okay. Should we do all of Wells and then do this? Okay. Then I've got Wells High School boys track, team academic runners-up. There's Carson Ballard, Cameron Livingstone, Isaac Gale, who's the 1,600 meter and 3,200 meter runner-up, Mason Norda, the 400 meter and 800 meter runner-up, Aaron Hansen, Marcus Cobian, Cash Coates, Henry Morris, Jaden Kaiser, Justice Nelson, Weston Sorensen. And we also want to recognize the head coaches, Don Norda and Amy Hunsaker, assistant coaches, Miles Baldwin, Carla Boner, Lyle Boner, and Ryan Kindle and Lucas Thomas. All right, go ahead. Around, we'd love to shake your hand. Congrats, y'all. Yeah, you get the honor to pass them all out. Great job. Congratulations. Good job. Excellent work. Congrats. Congratulations. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Then we've got Wells High School softball, the team state champion. Adriana Aguilar is also 1A All-League MVP. Mady Casas, Aviana Del Rio, Chloe Del Rio, Gabriela Garcia, Adriana Mercado, Grace Otto, Yitzel Rivas, Lisbeth Rivera Casas, Ariana Rodriguez, Dusty Eulig, Jess Wright, and coaches Chris Otto, Bernice Abiote, and Raul Rodriguez. Let's give them a big hand. First one gets the hardware. Okay. We'll let you pass it out. Congrats, good job. Great job, ladies. Excellent work. Yeah, good job. Good job. Good job, excellent work. Way to go. State champs, way to go. Impressive, way to go. Good job. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. Great job. Great season. Oh, we got one in training too. Congrats, Coach. Thank you.
Hey, yep, that was a mascot.
Okay, next we'll move on to, let's see, let me make sure I don't get ahead of myself here. Carlin High School track, individual state champions. We've got Jakin Bergener, the shot put 12-pound runner-up. We've got Katie Ferguson is the shot put 4-kilogram runner-up and the discus 1-kilogram runner-up. We've got Hayden Grondin, the triple jump runner-up, and also coaches Liza McKelly, Anthony Portray, and Jordan Newgard. Nice, you guys brought the hardware too. Congratulations. Those are cool. Good job, man. Okay. And we'll pause here just a moment while we bring in Spring Creek. We good? Okay, and if we get there early, we can always come back for the 6 o'clock. Okay. Make sure I don't miss a page here. Yep, there they are. All right, we're going to start with Spring Creek High School Baseball, the team academic runners-up. That's Joseph Bright, Connor Dockery, Adam Hersenko, Maddox Madigan, Daniel Manhire, Carson Manhire, McCoy McCater, Brylan Moore, Preston Morris, Logan Payne, Michael Pop, Hudson Sorensen, Thor Welch, Gabriel Zubria, and coaches Scott Gilligan, AJ Estrada, and Mitchell Ousley. They here? Anyway, right? You bet. Well, we'd love to shake your hand, sir. Oh, thank you, sir. Okay, and I've got Spring Creek High School Softball Team Academic Runners-Up is Liliana Benavides, Cambry Biggie, Ava Colley, Dylan Colley, Adeline Dolphin, John Lee Landa, Brinley Leduc, Mackenzie Morfin, Carly Nichols, Hannah Payne, Jesse Santasteven, Michaela Storia, Jocelyn Warrens, and coaches Sandy Moon and Catherine Davis. I miss?
Skylar Bishop.
Skylar Bishop. All right. Sorry about that, Skylar. We got you though. Thank you. Congrats. Way to go. Good job. Congrats. Thank you, coach. Thank you very much. All right, what I'm going to go ahead and do here, we have Elko High School scheduled for 6 o'clock, just for the logistics of it. So I'm going to go ahead and move ahead, and we'll come back to this item at 6 to recognize the rest of our state champions. That will put us to item 1.05, which is recognition of 2026 Elko County School District STEM Teachers of the Year. Mr. Smith?
Yep, I'll take over here. Give a minute. We'll let these guys that are coming in
Yeah.
sit down so everybody online can hear,
Of
okay? And then we'll get started with this item.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect, thank you. Oh, okay, you know what, we will then just go to that. It's, we have baseball here, right? Is track and the golf teams here yet? Yes?
Some of us are here.
Some, I'll hold back. We'll do baseball right now.
Guys aren't gonna make it. They had work and stuff going on.
Well, then we will push it on ahead. All right. Then we will start, with Elko High School track, the individual state champions. There's Octavian Cordova, quite the list here, 200-meter state champion, 400-meter state champion, 300-meter hurdles state champion, and the 110-meter hurdles runner-up. We've got Mela Eklund, the 300-meter hurdles runner-up, Dake Mount, Spencer Laney, Max Fraley, and Ander Aranguena, the 4x200 relay state champions. We got Sasha Vera, Kanadi Peterson, Malia Eklund, and Jessica Vera. That's the 4x400 relay runners-up. And we have coaches Hans Gall, Chip Briggs, Rue Beyer, Drew D'Arietta, Alyssa Shelley, Nicole Sellers, Heather Humecki, Brendan Shelley, Alex Klekus, and Tevin Thomas. glad you're here on their behalf. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Next, we've got the Elko High School Baseball Team State Champions. You heard it's been a while too, so congrats on that. We got Armando Acosta, Cooper Aranguena, Taven Arbalaga, Emmanuel Castro Munoz, Nicholas Chamberlain, Rylan Glasgow. Got Gabriel Jacobo, Coy Jones, Carter Kidwell, Ethan Krantz, Ryder Miller, Travis Monet, Rylan Plummer, Javier Robles, Adam Romanos, Scott Stellers, Cameron Steenson, Carson Steenson, and the coaches, Jeremy Examendi, Jeremy Zeiler, Camus Wing, Javi Robles, Travis Monet, Josh Krantz, Mickey Smith, and Parker Chamberlain. Congrats, guys. Congratulations. Well done. Good job. Congrats. Congrats. Thank you. Congratulations, sir. Champs. I love it. Way to go, coach. Thanks for bringing it home. Good job, coach. Thank you.
Oh, wait, he's already done. That is good.
Yeah, might be worth something now.
I sold it. No, just kidding.
All right, and last but not least here, we've got the Elko High School Boys Golf Team State Champions. Tor Eckhart, Bowden Goikachia, Trey Jones, Jack Marma, also first place in state tournament and 3A state MVP. MJ McConnell, Carson Nelson, and our coaches, Colin Oak and Steve Zeller. Congrats, man. Good job. Way to go. State champ. Good job, guys.
Senior, so we got good.
You know, I got to say, I've shaken a lot of hands in the last week or two, and that's the best. That's the best. Okay, back to you, Mr. Smith. Item 1.05, recognition of the 2026 Elko County School District STEM Teachers of the Year.
All right, thank you. All right, so yeah, I get the honor of making these presentations. ECSD Teacher of the Year is something that I believe this is the third school year that we've been doing this, and it's great to have the opportunity to do this. So in the room with us here tonight, we have Mr. Ernie Mendez. So I'm going to follow Mr. Anderson's lead here. You have to come up to the podium and stand there so you can be the center of attention, because we know how much all of you teachers love that recognition, right? So yeah, please come up. I'm going to read the nomination form for Mr. Mendez, and then we'll do the same thing. We'll shake your hand and tell you congratulations. So what I have here, Ernie Mendez has been a pillar of the Spring Creek Middle School faculty since he first arrived in the fall of 1997. Over his remarkable tenure, he's become an institution, occupying the very same classroom for all of these years. This unique detail highlights his deep roots and commitment to the school, as he is in fact the only teacher who has ever held class in that particular room. Mr. Mendez's dedication is deeply embedded in his teaching philosophy. As a veteran science educator, he's taught a diverse range of science classes, consistently achieving a high level of student engagement. He accomplishes this by masterfully making the potentially complex content relevant to his students' lives and experiences, often injecting well-timed humor to lighten the mood and aid retention. More important than the content itself, however, is his commitment to the whole student. For Mr. Mendez, the foundational act of building strong, trusting relationships with students is just as much a top priority as ensuring they achieve proficiency in the subject area. This dual focus on academic rigor and personal connection is what truly sets him apart, cementing his status as one of SCMS's, and I'll add ECSD's, most valued and respected teachers. Thank you so much, Mr. Mendez.
Do I have to hit something? Oh, I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to represent Elko County School District for these last 30 years. The students that have come through that classroom, I put the numbers at over 5,500 students have gone through that classroom. And the teachers, my administrators that I've worked for all of these years, I just, again, thank everybody. It truly is a team effort from here to the classroom. Being one and together is just something I've always believed in. So I just want to say thank you to Elko County School District for giving me this opportunity. So.
And then we have another recognition for our secondary STEM teacher of the year, Mr. Ryan Carpenter, who teaches at Oahe Combined School. And I don't think he was able to be here tonight, but I'm going to read the nomination for him too, just so we have that entered in the record and have an opportunity to give him a round of applause as well. So here's what this one says. The Texas Farm Bureau defines the agriculture teacher as an educational rock star who inspires students, teaches about agriculture and life, and gives more than they receive. They are proficient in career development events, corny jokes, livestock judging, fundraising, and making students look good in corduroy. Lastly, they are a big deal. By every measure of that definition, Ryan Carpenter is a big deal to Oahe Combined School, the Duck Valley community, and the Elko County School District. Since joining Oahe in the fall of 2005, Mr. Carpenter has served as the agriculture teacher and FFA advisor for over 2 decades. His unique ability to inspire students and connect agricultural education with vital real-world concepts has led to an incredible milestone. 77% of all high school students in Oahe are currently enrolled in his ag program, including animal science, ag welding, and this statistic doesn't even include his middle school students. Year after year, he shows up and helps students succeed, building a regional reputation for developing state FFA officers and training highly competitive livestock judging teams. Mr. Carpenter's dedication is evident in his daily schedule. He teaches 7 periods each day, routinely sacrificing his preparation time and doubling up on course offerings to maximize opportunities for students. Within his classroom and shop, he integrates STEM principles with practical application. His students engage in advanced botanical and environmental sciences by constructing greenhouses to propagate indigenous plants. Furthermore, the Oahe Ag Shop serves as the only mechanics and fabrication facility within a 90-mile radius. Under Mr. Carpenter's leadership, it has become an invaluable lifeline for the entire region. Community members frequently rely on the physical space and the practical engineering experience of Mr. Carpenter and his students to troubleshoot and solve complex mechanical problems that would otherwise remain unresolved. Through this, students learn a profound sense of civic duty, keeping the shop doors open to assist neighbors, repair virtual equipment, and cook for local residents. Mr. Carpenter's ultimate goal is to robustly prepare the next generation for the modern agricultural workforce. His impact extends far beyond the traditional school day. He selflessly devotes countless hours of his own time and personal resources to mentor youth in farming, ranching, and the intricate art of saddle building, a highly revered trade in the cowboy community. While Mr. Carpenter modestly considers his 20 years of profound dedication as just doing his job, a generation of students, families, and neighbors recognize his impact as truly life-changing. By seamlessly blending STEM education with vital community service, Ryan Carpenter isn't just teaching, he is empowering an entire community, embodying exactly what it means to be the ECSD Secondary STEM Teacher of the Year. So congratulations to Mr. Carpenter. And then lastly on this item, I'd like to take a moment just to recognize our sponsors who make this award possible. We have Everything Elko, Family Dental Care, Leanne's Floral Designs, Nevada Gold Mines, Orla Mining, Total Eye Care, and the Anderson family. Thank you so much for giving us the resources to be able to recognize our wonderful people who do such great work every day. So thank you to all of our sponsors.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. We'll now move on to item 1.06. It's input from the public. There's a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. A speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised into this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. Do we have any public comment? All right, here, moving forward. Item 2 would be the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. All right, I was just told we have one that we missed here, and we would like to recognize from the Elko High School track individual state champions. It's Octavian Cordova, right? Yeah, come on up. He's meter state champion, 400 meter state champion, the 300 meter hurdle state champion, and the 110 runner up. Congrats, man. That's a way to go. Yeah. Way to go. One more hand. State champ. Thanks for being here. All right, and with the consent agenda done, we'll move to item 3.01. That's receipt, discussion, and possible approval of the accounts payable.
Move to accept the accounts payable.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or disclosures?
I will disclose that I have a family member who is employed by Wells Rural Electric, but I will not be abstaining.
And I will disclose that I have a family member that works for Wells Rural Electric, but also will not be abstaining from voting.
And I'll be disclosing I have a family member on there, and I will not be abstaining.
And do I have to disclose now?
Yep. Yeah, it got his motion of the entire group.
Okay, so I have to disclose that I work for Lone Wolf and I'll be abstaining from voting.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, and we get, trustee Neal, did I get a vote from you?
Yes, I said aye.
Okay, didn't come through. I just want to make sure we didn't leave you. Chair votes aye, motion passes. On to item 4.01. That's acceptance and of renewal proposal from Nevada Public Agency Insurance Pool and approval for payment from fiscal year 26 and 27 funds for possible action.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dane Uriarty with LP Insurance, and I also have Alan Kalt, who is the Pool Pact CFO. I'll let Alan say his piece, and then I will talk about the insurance aspect of it.
Great. Thank you very much. If we could queue up the PowerPoint 11-page, Hillary, that'd be great. Thank you so much. We passed out today. You guys passed out a lot of awards. What an honor to be here. I remember a couple years ago, I was at a meeting where the valedictorians were introduced, and what a humbling experience. And that last dude, he probably had enough points all by himself to win the state title, winning all those events. That's just amazing. Because what's really amazing, I think, is schools represent communities, And what you guys do as a school board overseeing the overall operations of the school creates excellence not only in the classroom, but on the athletic field and the future of the, of our country and of our community. So, wow, what a testament of all those people. And it's a privilege to be here tonight to watch these guys get recognized. So, as stated, I'm Alan Coulter. We'd move to the next slide. I'm with Pool Pact. We passed out an opportunity coin. Everyone should have received an opportunity coin. I can name the 16 counties, one city, Carson City. But this coin represents Pool Pact. We've been in business since 1987 on the pool side. Our workers' comp is 30 years old on April 1st in 1996. Around the edge, as we go to the next slide, you'll see there are 7 words: proactive, accountability, responsibility, service, stability, strength, and safety. All those academic winners, athletic winners, as well as you and each one of us probably can relate to these words. What's interesting is we had a strategic planning retreat. A lot of this came up in there about our core values. 7 words, 7 days of the week. Think about that if you think about 1 word per week. That's what we, as a pool, you're the owners, you're the members, you govern us, okay? As staff, that's what we try to live by, to serve all the members within the organization. Oops. So the members are the center of everything we do, okay? We have an executive committee, and on the executive committee, we have school member representatives, and Sear from Carson City School District serves on there, Dan Murphy from Pershing County. On the workers' comp, we have PACT, we have an executive committee, we have an enterprise risk management committee, and the HR oversight committee that are made up of members that govern our organization and keep the organization going. In law enforcement, they like to say, we got your back, we got your 6. Well, Pool Pact, we provide 6 levels of different services. The one we probably want to hone in on the most is emergency support services for school districts. Okay, we have online, on-demand learning, e-learning, human resources, health and wellness, risk management, and cybersecurity that is offered to all our members. So these are the types of things that we do. School safety, we have a contract with the national expert, Jeff Case, Safe Schools, to help develop safety plans, hazardous vulnerability assessments for school districts. We work with your development committees. Those are very important things. Emergency operation plans, those types of things that benefit the school district. HR support services, our e-learning last year won an international award, a bronze medal. We're very proud of the online learning that we have, and the school districts are role models of folks that take advantage of that. Tony Rucci, our cybersecurity, doing passive network assessments and cyber things to make sure that we are safe within our member entities' cyber world, because that's a big risk that we feel is going to continue to grow as AI develops. We also provide risk management grants. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Dane, and Dane's going to talk about the insurance aspect of our programs.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, so this right here, as you've learned, the pool is more than just insurance. This right here is what they call the patchwork quilt. You can see you have your member deductible, and then there's different layers of reinsurance. And then the pool, or you as members, also use captives. That would be, for example, what the PRM there is. And then ultimately, you put all those limits together, and that's how you get the limits that you have.
Yeah, if we could highlight real quick. So we are able to increase our property coverage from $300 million to $500 million. We go out to bid every year, and we were able to get that additional layer of coverage for only $150,000, which we felt was a tremendous buy. We also were able to restructure our cyber program to meet the needs of the community and of our different members, and to expand coverage on that as well. And again, we go out to bid. We, if you will, find the best coverage, and we did some changes in our liability insurance placement. And by doing that, Dane's going to point out that you'll, as you have read in your packet, that our costs went down with even this expanded coverage.
So that's kind of the principle. Everybody probably purchases personal auto insurance, home insurance. We're not seeing a lot of decreases on that side. We're here by pooling and then utilizing all the risk management services. I guess it's kind of the phrase, if it works if you use it, something along those lines. And I'd like to give a shout out to Cody and Cassie, who have really taken advantage of all these programs that the pool does offer to keep everybody safe and out of trouble. On the private side, I am not seeing decreases. That's why I like the pool, because there are no, don't want to say no, but your chances of coverage gaps minimize, where on the private side, you're piecing things together, and it seems like a lot of times that whatever happens is right in that chink in your armor, I guess, for lack of a better word. Okay, so this is the property and cyber coverage which Alan talked about. Cyber with AI and everything is very scary these days, and it's getting very hard to obtain as a private business, and it's not really cost effective to obtain it. So the pool has it, and then Tony Rucci that he mentioned is a cyber expert. When we have incidents, I emailed him, he's 5 minutes back in touch, because time is of the essence on that. You don't want to let cyber sit there and fester while they're doing whatever they do behind the firewall, etc. So I feel good about the cyber situation here. And then with a large schedule of values here for the school district, that additional 200 million, any one loss is huge. That's a lot of property coverage. And property is getting harder and harder these days with the fire maps. Carriers are pulling back on their limits. That's kind of the pain point, I would say.
So the total insured values for the school district are 637 million. 637,471. So by moving that from 300 to 500, the likelihood of every public school district building and a vehicle and stuff to have one peril, not likely to happen, but we've increased that level of coverage.
Well, if I could, I have a question there regarding that, in that even at 300, do we have a property that would require that amount to replace?
So, for example,
or can you make that work for me? Why do we need 300 to 500? Because right now I don't see a school costing, the one we're building in Hawaii is 65.
So the Wells earthquake.
Right.
Okay, and a flood and earthquake is 150 or 100, I think it's 150 million now.
Correct.
Yeah, so you could have, that was a significant loss. So out in Elko, probably not, but if you take the 395 corridor, okay, with Carson City, Douglas, that type of thing, we did what's called CAT modeling, looking at the catastrophic worst case scenario in what could happen, and with that, it was determined, we should probably increase our limits. Okay, and you know what, at the value that we received that additional coverage, the total property, I think, is like $5.3 million on pool-wide average, okay, or total. And to add from 300 and then to go to 500 for only an extra 150,000 was a great buy. The market, was willing to accept that additional layer.
Is that something that's we don't choose? That's what's doing for the entire pool? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I just, be frank, I don't see that applying in Elko County at all.
I hope we don't even have a $10 million
an asteroid hits
loss.
a campus, it's still going to be 300 to cover, is what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely. We get that.
Okay, so highlighted on the right side is the percent decrease from last year. And I'm seeing an average 10% increase on the commercial private side. So pretty good. As you can see, payroll, total insured values. The pool does property value modeling to make sure if something were to happen, that it's sufficient limits. And then as has been discussed ad nauseum, student enrollment's down slightly here.
So here's contact staff of folks at Pool Pack. Wayne Carlson, our founder, executive director, still works 40 plus hours a week. Myself as chief financial officer. Stephen is our broker, member relations. Marshall and Jared are very active involved in the risk management. Mike Van Houten is our e-learning web master. And Stacey Norbeck runs our HR program. And we always believe that, working together, we achieve more. And then we believe as an organization, and we hope that our members also believe in being proactive, accountability, responsibility, service, safety, stability, and strength within our organization. And we'd be happy to answer any questions, any further questions you guys may have.
I'll leave that open to the board. Any questions?
I'm just happy to see something actually going down that we want to go down. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, the tune of $185,000. That was nice to see.
Yeah, we're very blessed. So what happened, the property market, we received a significant decrease in the property rate. We have fought very hard for that with the marketplace, and through the modeling and the wildfires and that type of thing, we've explained to them. And what was interesting is there was a high-risk forest in Dayton. And we saw it on the map. I drove out there, and there were 4 pine trees in front of the high school, and they called that a forest. And we took pictures. We showed that to the market. We showed that on the map, and they're like, oh, wow, okay. So property coverage, those dollar amounts went down. And school districts are very property dependent. I mean, the value, the public assets, your value of your property is more probably than the county, the county facilities. Most counties are that way. The schools have the greatest property values. So the fact the property went down, that helps your overall rate go down. So we're pleased with that. That's good.
Mr. Chair, if I may, move to approve the payment for the fiscal year 2026, 2027 for the Nevada Public Agency Insurance Pool.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Cole, Mr. Garrity, thank you.
All right, moving on to item 4.02, that's review, discussion, and possible approval of proposed revisions to policy DHE, use of credit cards.
Good
Ms.
evening.
Stolke.
I believe this is the second reading of the
Yes.
policy. So if anybody has any questions, I don't believe there was too many. I don't even think we made any changes, actually.
Yeah,
from
we
the
didn't
last
have
one.
much. Does the board have anything further on this? How'd you like to proceed?
Move
I
to
move
approve.
to approve. Go ahead, Josh. I will second Josh's motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 4.03, that's receipt and review of the sole bid for the stair replacement at Mountain View Elementary School, Flagview Intermediate School, and Spring Creek Elementary School project submitted by B.N.I.P LLC, DBA Element Construction. Mr. Stolke.
Good evening, guys. Yeah, so we had a bid from Element Construction for $191,563 for the stair replacement for those 3 schools, but they did not have all their contractors' license that they needed to complete the project. So I think they could do vertical concrete or horizontal concrete, but not vertical concrete.
Flat work.
Yeah, so, and we only had the one bid that came in.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a motion, and then I would like an opportunity to speak if I may. Move that the board find that the district legally received no bids because the element construction bid was the only bid received, and NRS 338.1475 prohibits the board from accepting it since element construction was, at the time of the bid, not properly licensed under the provisions of Chapter 624 of NRS. Element construction needed a general contracting or C5 license to bid the project and did not have one of those classifications of license.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion?
Only thing I'd like to see in the future is let's not even publish the bid. It's a constructive, I mean, it's a competitive market, and it's disappointing that they in good faith thought they had done this. And so now we've said, here's the amount, and nope, we're not going to take it. So the only thing I'd like to see in the future is if legally possible, don't even put it out there and just say, hey, we didn't get it. Don't know whether we can do that, but if possible, it's my only request.
Sure.
Yeah, that was my thought too as well, was to check with legal.
Yeah, and the way it kind of works, you guys, just so you know, that, we'll get that bid, let's say 2:00 on a Thursday afternoon. We open the bids, we review all their documents, and then legal and myself kind of go through all that, make sure everything's up to par, and then we find out something, yeah. So
I do believe
it's
once
after
it's
we open
open
it.
like that,
Yeah.
once it's open, we're required to follow the
I'm
process.
not a lawyer. I don't
But
know.
yeah, we'll
and I'm
check
not
on
going to
that
guess
for sure.
anymore. So I'm just asking. I was just asking a
Yeah.
question. So.
Yeah, I'll check with Rich and we can go from there.
Yeah,
But
if we get an email, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye, and the motion passes. Thank you. And moving on to 4.04, now we're at the receipt, review, and possible acceptance of the superintendent's recommendation to re-advertise the stair replacement at Mountain View Elementary School, Flagview Intermediate School, and Spring Creek Elementary School project without competitive bids pursuant to NRS 338.143, because the district did not legally receive any bids.
Mr. Chair, move the board, one, accept the superintendent's recommendation to re-advertise the stair replacement at Mountain View Elementary School, Flagview Intermediate School, and Spring Creek Elementary School project without competitive bids pursuant to NRS 338.1436, because the district legally did not receive any bids. And two, accept legal counsel's recommendation that the board authorize the superintendent to award the contract to the lowest responsive bidder after the 7-day advertisement on the condition that the lowest bid is within the board's previously approved budget of $200,000.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion?
I'm assuming that all contract requirements are still going to apply to this, whether
Yes.
it's bidded or not?
Yeah, so
Bidded,
we'll reach out
identified
to every local contractor that kind of has these licenses and see if they're interested in the project and go from there. So, and then we'll come back to you with you guys from there. So.
Yeah, that was just going to be my question, was how are we making this more enticing, you know? I have 3 contractors I can't even get a hold of right now, so.
Yeah.
It's not that the work doesn't need to get done, it's just a matter of it being such a chore to even get started. So.
Yes.
But, okay, so that's.
It's definitely frustrating.
No, for sure.
So.
Jeff, did you get your contractor's license yet?
No, I did do some legal work. I could do it for free, but if you wanted to pay me, I'd have to do some things, so.
I'd help you, Jeff.
I did review the NRS. I still think this would be a great project for a high school shop class. I really do. If we could get a contractor that we could work with that'd come and supervise it and have because it's some valuable
Definitely
learning, and just setting up rebar and pouring concrete. I mean, that's a rite of passage, in my opinion. You've got to, until you embrace the suck of that, you really, you haven't lived.
Yeah.
So anyway, any further discussion, Ward?
I just want to agree.
Oh.
So sorry. I just want to agree with you on that before she chimes in that.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a right. If you haven't done concrete work, you haven't lived. So.
Yeah. Trustee Neal.
Just a question about the superintendent approving it. Is that because we're not having another meeting until July? Why are we asking him to approve something without us?
I think it's per NRS with X amount of days and kind of re-advertising it. I believe that's what it is, Susan.
It's
So-
part of also, we didn't have bids, or we
Yes.
didn't have any legal bids on that. So it changes the process a little bit. And there is that, in the motion at the very end there, it can't go over 200,000 over our budget. Or otherwise it would require our purview again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Actually, I want to interrupt here and just clarify a little bit that it's not about that we didn't receive any bids. It's about the timing of how meetings are scheduled and being able to get those bids back and have them agendized before the next meeting is probably not going to be possible. And so then the next time you guys meet is in July, which would mean that this work couldn't even start until August, and we will have people back on campus at that time. So that's why legal is making the recommendation that the superintendent be able to approve it as long as it comes in under the amount that you've budgeted.
Thank you.
I have a question. What if we don't get any bids under the 200,000? Then what's the next step?
We'll re-advertise and go from there.
All right. Any further discussion?
I've just thrown it out there. What if we turned it into a ramp? If we got rid of the vertical, changes and turned it into a ramp, it's then flat. Could Element then do that?
I don't think it would work at either location just with ADA, right? Because you're making it a ramp, which would have to be ADA compliant.
Does it? Slopes aren't. I mean, concrete slopes aren't, but I don't know. You are the professional. I'm just wondering.
I'm just saying, let's take Mountain View. The stairs are, from my feet to about here, right? So to actually have a ramp that's compliant would have to go out to the wall to do the slope, to do the 2% and kind of go from there. So
the grade's too steep.
Yes. Yeah.
Our concrete costs would go way up. We'd have like 10 times as much concrete.
And re-engineering and the whole deal. Yeah.
All right, so we did have a motion and a second on this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
No.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you. And we'll have you stick around because 4.05 is a facilities and construction update.
Yeah, so our school safety projects, they're moving forward really well. We kind of just finished up Northside and Mountain View. They're probably doing a little bit more at Mountain View. And then I think this summer, just because of the beast of Elko High, the contractor's going to transition to Elko High School to see if we can complete that in the summertime and then kind of go from there. And then we just kind of have a few couple elementary schools, Liberty Peak, and a couple other things that we kind of need to figure out, but not too much after that. As for Owyhee, I was up there today. That building's looking fantastic. It's pretty much all closed in. Roofs on, internal framing's almost complete. All the electrical, plumbing, mechanical upgrade or rough-in is moving forward really well. That project's moving forward fantastic. Current projects, we have grammar number 2 mechanical upgrade. It's moving forward. Since school got out, it's really going extremely fast right now. They have a ton of work there. I mean, with a 100-year-old building and those poor guys crawling through those little tunnels and cutting out pipe and installing new pipe. I would not want to be a plumber. They're doing Chester's over there doing that project, and we're really pushing to kind of get that wrapped up this fall. Elko High School boiler upgrade is moving forward. That's a little bit more straightforward. Again, Chester got that bid and they're doing a great job over there. And I don't really see us having any issues over there on that project. The Wells High gym roof, will start soon. Just kind of finishing up some of the bonding stuff with the contractor, and we'll kind of, pick a date here pretty soon where they can mob out and move forward with that project. But that, that'll be a great project. And then just finishing up, I'm just finishing up the district asphalt maintenance, trying to get that out to bid probably in the next week or two. So, and then future projects, we are kind of looking at West Wendover Middle School. We have one boiler there, and we're just looking at options of what we can do to kind of get that school heating kind of back up and running. If it's something kind of like Flagview where we just replace a boiler for 50 grand, or we're going to do a whole mechanical upgrade, but we're kind of going through all that stuff with the engineers and kind of going.
That school just had a pretty significant upgrade.
Probably.
I guess it's been a few years.
Yeah, it's been a
when
few
the
years,
elementary
but they
school-
didn't replace any of that
The
stuff. So,
HVAC.
no, so
Remember
like
the
the,
$6 million project.
right. So the boiler itself was probably at least 30 years old, and our heat exchanger cracked and failed on that. And then we have it's kind of a weird system where it's kind of a boiler on one side and a heat pump on the other side of the school. They kind of tie in together. And so we've just got a 35-year-old heat pump that's running the whole building. So,
And does any of that affect the gym, the field house out there?
no.
That's
no.
on a separate system?
Separate, yeah.
Separate system, okay.
Yep. So we're kind of looking at options for that building. And I think moving forward, just with the county oversight committee, and we'll kind of sit down and just look at these whole projects and kind of come up with a few options that we can do, right? So, me, myself, I'd like to save money, but do I want to get things done right the first time and not Band-Aid something over? But yeah, we're going to look at all these projects and kind of come up with options for all of them.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Selke?
Matt, do we have any of these projects that we anticipate interfering with the opening school here? We just finished school, but do we have anything that's currently planning on, that you're estimating may impact?
Grammar's going to run really close. We're having, weekly meetings with the contractor, and we're pushing really hard, and they're doing a fantastic job, and they're pushing really hard. But I think we're all a little, the amount of work that needs to happen there, we're all a little nervous, but I think we'll get it figured out, and they're pretty sure they will too. So.
Is it time to start thinking contingency, or is there?
No. How about we just have a late winter? It would be just fine, right? So.
Done.
Yeah, if we do
Last year, we might
winter,
be
yeah,
there.
exactly. We'd be just fine. If we do a winter in November, I would be completely okay. But if we had something in early September, I'd be a little nervous, but we'll get there. These guys are doing a great job.
Up here for that, so.
One more question. Any changes you see coming up that would impact the capital improvement plan? Last time we had an update, I think it was January.
Yeah, we just finished the capital improvement plan, and we'll give you that update.
That's coming in a meeting or two.
Yeah,
We just talked
and
about it.
yeah, so we've done a really detailed list of everything, and I'm trying to do even more of a detailed list of everything that's on the table for Elko County School District, and kind of give you guys those reasons and cost estimates and kind of go from there. So.
With or without?
We won't worry about winter, but yeah, I think on a side note with the Hawaii project, before it hit winter last year, I made a joke in one of our meetings with the contractor. Said, we're going to have a very mild winter this year. Don't worry, guys, we'll get this thing built. And we did. So maybe I'll say that again, and we'll be just fine. So.
Not Costco has a great deal on those space heaters. So.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Stocking.
All right, anything further? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, item 4.06 is receipt and review of school assessment and accountability data. And Mr. Smith. You got it.
RJ, can you put the school accountability presentation? Thank you. As we speak. Awesome. All right. Well, so I've got some information here, excuse me, to share with you, an update on some MAP data. And I'm going to do my best to remember to take some breaks after, every slide if possible. But if I don't do that, please feel free to interject. I think it's probably going to be a little bit easier if you have questions while we're talking about that topic. So please jump in if I forget to give you that breath or that minute to do it. I've kind of been pouring over this for the last week or so. So it's all stuff that's familiar to me, and I need to remember that sometimes it's not familiar to everybody else. So please, board, feel free to interject if you need to. It definitely won't hurt my feelings. So just real quickly, kind of we'll start at the beginning, give a sort of an update, a reminder of what NWEA MAP testing looks like in our district. NWEA is the vendor, is the name of the company. The assessment is the MAP assessment. That's given 3 times a year in fall, winter, and spring. Reading and math are required subject areas. K through 8 takes what's just called the math growth assessment. When you get into high school, there's course-specific math tests. So you'll notice on some of the upcoming slides that there are some slides that have high school grades and high school data, and then some that don't. And it's because in the math world, at least, there's different assessments. So some of the data doesn't translate. So like I said, some of them will have K-8 information, some of them will have high school information, and that's why it's different. And then additionally, our schools have the opportunity to take additional assessments in science and language usage if they choose to. There won't be any information related to those set tests or those assessments in this presentation because we're focusing just on the required assessments, math and reading, that align to the board goals and our district performance plan and things like that. But I just want to give a quick overview of what MAP assessment looks like throughout our district as the school year goes on. So let's see if I can get this guy to work. No? It says on. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's why it's tricky. You got to push back to go forward. Remember that. Or I'll try to remember it. Yeah. Okay, now I don't even know where I'm at. All right, let's start over. Okay, so that being said, we're going to talk about 2 different metrics here related to the results of our MAP assessment. So the first one is one that you guys as the board will probably be familiar with because we've talked about it for several years here, and that's projected proficiency. So what projected proficiency is exactly what it sounds like, right? It's a prediction based on a correlation study that NWEA has done between their MAP growth assessment, which is our internal interim assessments, and correlated that to results on the state Smarter Balanced assessment. And because there are so many students who participate in both of those assessments, they're able to put all that information together and figure out a prediction of when kids on the MAP assessment will most likely be proficient or above on the SBAC assessment. So as you can see on the slide there, it answers the question, based on how our students are testing right now on MAP, how many of them are likely, highly likely, to be on track to pass the SBAC assessment at the end of the year. And the way that they do that is, like I mentioned, through this linking study where there's thousands of students who take both of those assessments and they compare those results. And because there's just so many data points there, they've been able to make pretty accurate predictions on how kids will do on those SBAC tests, which we don't see finalized results for until usually mid-summer, late July, early August occasionally sometimes. So it usually is a pretty good predictor of that. And just to kind of drive that point home, in the last 3 years, our projected proficiency and our actual proficiency has been within the average on the reading side of it is 2.76%. And on the math side of it is within a percentage point and a half. So really pretty accurate from NWBA standards and then also from our own internal ECSD results. So any questions on what projected proficiency is or how it's determined before we move?
Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
Could you repeat what you just said? I got the 2.67, but can you say that statement one more time for me, please?
Yep. So the average over the last 3 years in reading was within 2.76%. And the average over the last 3 years on our math assessment is 1.5% between our projected proficiency and our actual SBAC proficiency.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Mr. Smith, just to confirm, the projected proficiency, is that fall, winter, spring? That's 3 times?
No, just the spring. We're using just the spring map projected proficiency versus our actual SBAC proficiency. And the reason we do that is they're the closest in time to when we give those 2 assessments. Does that make sense?
And also just to clarify, in case someone is freaking out, the only 1% of our students are proficient. That is not what this means.
Correct. Yes. What I'm saying is the projected number and the actual number are within that degree of accuracy. Thank you.
And your spring, having the correlation there between, the two is great. I just was curious as to if there's a way to be able to move that forward in the school year so that if proficiency seems to not be where it needs to be, there's time to react.
Sure.
Whereas if it's in spring, we don't really have a lot of time before the SBAC.
Yeah. So let me clarify my response there, Matt, to make, now I think I understand what you're asking. We do have the ability to run these projected proficiency reports on the fall and the winter one as well. And we do that internally, but the numbers that I'm using for this presentation that I'm giving today are based on spring map projected proficiency compared to SBAC actual proficiency. So to your point, you're absolutely right. There's definitely value in looking at that projected proficiency in the fall. November generally is when we're done with that, because then you have a period of time to intervene on what needs to be done. And our schools do that. Just the numbers that I'm giving today are based on the spring projected proficiency.
Great. Thanks for reading between the lines of what I was trying to ask.
Great point.
Sorry, I didn't get the first time. Better than I could.
Sometimes, I need a second reminder. So yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay. So now going to the next one. Here is some information about our projected proficiency numbers and in relation to the board goal that was set for increasing this percentage by 3% percentage points. Make sure I get that right, over the last couple of years. And so on the left-hand side of the screen there, I'm not going to read the whole thing as I'm talking. Hopefully everybody has an opportunity to read it there, but you can see what the goal stated. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, we have our projected proficiency for those grades on the spring reading map assessment over the last 4 years. And I just have 2 representations of the exact same data there, so I don't want to confuse anybody there. I just know sometimes, some people like to see it in graphical form and other people like to see it in chart form, so I just included both of them there. So you can see those numbers over the last four years. And like I said, we don't have spring 2026 actual SBAC results yet to compare, but those first 3, 23, 24, and 25, the projected numbers there versus our actual numbers have been within that 2.76% on average. So as I look at that, just a couple quick things to point out. First off, the first thing that jumps out to me there as a strength is that this year in 2026, our projected proficiency is the highest that it is or has been over the last 4 years. So we're seeing, a positive trend there. If you were to insert a trend line into that graph, you would see it trending in the right direction, upward and to the right, which is what we want to see. Also looking at it objectively, looking at some opportunities for growth there. While it's improving, I think Jeff, in previous conversations, I've heard you say this, this baseball, it's the only other place in time where, a 30-something% is a number that we see very often. So, there's definitely lots of room for improvement there. So I think we need to keep that in mind, but at least trending in the right direction. Unfortunately, also not increasing at a rate to match our goal there and our numbers that we had in the goal. But nevertheless, highest projected proficiency in 4 years, so.
And just to interject too, it just looks like we had a setback there in 25, but otherwise our percentage gains for the years have been on track with those goals despite that 1 year.
Sure. Yep. Good point.
2 out of 3 is getting up to Shaq free throw
Yeah,
percentage.
we're getting there. Right.
Mr. Smith,
Yes, sir. Or yes,
Is-
ma'am. Sorry.
is there any, can you think of something that's contributing to that increase? Like, is there something specific or just work that teachers are doing?
Sure. Yeah, I can think of lots of things, but I'll just kind of, for time's sake, maybe narrow it down. But one thing that I'll point out to keep in mind is over the course of this time span that's represented in those numbers there, we did adopt a new math textbook series and instructional materials. We've done some work with our math teachers to kind of drive home some of those instructional practices. Oh, I'm sorry. Geesh, thank you. Sorry. Yeah, let me go back to that. Sorry. We haven't adopted a new language arts series there. So yeah, not relevant there. Thank you for catching that. But I think you could attribute some of that to, again, just tightening up of some instructional practices. We've got schools who have worked pretty hard to incorporate intervention blocks or intervention times. Different schools do it differently, but we've focused on that. We have had our reading interventionist positions. Unfortunately, we're not having those continuing due to some of those things that have been going on. But I think some of that, there could be some potentially some impact there on the things that those folks were doing. And our schools, of course, are going to work to find ways to replace those services that were being provided to the greatest extent that they can. So I guess I'll say, Susan, to directly answer your question, I don't know that I have any one thing to say across the board. This is the reason for that improvement. But I think a combination of probably a lot of I don't want to say little things because they're not little, of course, but a combination of a lot of things going on all at once.
Yeah, that's great to know. I didn't think there was probably just one thing, but that's good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Smith, if I may, the dip that we had in 2025, is there anything that was identified that we're going to be able to utilize for this upcoming year to prevent a secondary dip?
Yeah, I do, there is a dip there, right? I would also say you have, of course, I guess I'll use the term margin of error there, right? Where sometimes there's just a little bit of flexibility or volatility, even maybe is a word that I would use there. So, while that's something to note, and you're right, that's a low spot there, but it's not like a significant bump that I would say in and of itself is something to too drastically be worried about. What we'd want to make, if we see another one and it's more significant, then maybe we look into it a little bit more. But I guess that's the best response that I can think of to that is just recognize that it's there, but also recognize that you've got lots of variables, different group of kids, different things that could have been going on that could attribute to that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that slide? Okay. Next slide. This one is math, so I can answer about math on this one if you ask a question about that one. So again, similar information. Charts and goal are switched on this slide, just to keep you on your toes a little bit. But the goal there for this one is for fourth through seventh graders on the MAP math test. And there are the numbers from our goal. And then on the left is the projected proficiency over the last 4 years. Unfortunately, we don't see the same 4-year high mark in 2026 that we saw in reading. However, we have had 2 years in a row now, 25 and 26, where that represent our 2 highest numbers in this span that's represented here on the chart. So we've got two good years of improvement numbers there. As far as, again, opportunities for growth, still not the overall proficiency projection that we'd like to see. Lots of room for growth. And then also, I think we should keep in mind, like I said on the last slide, from 25 to 26, we do see a dip there. And so that's something for us to keep in mind and be cognizant of and make sure that that's not a trend that we see continuing. And if, it is, or we see that it's going to, then we need to kind of really look into what is that trend happening. So that's something that I kind of have noted on my own mental list to keep track of, to make sure that we don't see a trend the opposite direction that we don't want to see. Questions on that slide?
So, Mr. Smith, you started talking about you think
Sure.
new curriculum has helped.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you think is helping?
I would say, yeah. So there's the curriculum, and then also some of the time that we spent with our math teachers, not only looking at those instructional materials tied to our textbooks, but also looking at priority standards in each grade and each course that we teach. We did some initial work on creating some common assessments that we're going to continue hopefully here moving forward into the 26-27. And so again, I think it's sort of a combination of all of those things working in conjunction with each other.
Great, thank you.
Anything else on that slide? Okay. So now we'll go to the next slide here, and there's a lot of information there. So I'll give you a second to kind of digest it there, but this is that same projected proficiency score, just broken down instead of at a district-wide level that we saw in the previous slides by school. So you can, look across that same 4-year span and have the numbers there, broken out by school. So quick things that I see as strengths there. We have 8 different schools who had their highest projected proficiency in 2026. And we had 11 schools who improved from spring of 2025 to spring of 2026. So we've got some positive things going on there. Again, opportunities for growth as I look at it. We don't have a projected proficiency over 50%, unfortunately. So that's something that I would like to see as we move forward. Hopefully we can get to that point. And we do have some numbers that are trending in a direction that we don't necessarily want to see. And so I think those are things that we need to take a look at from a district level, and then have conversations with our sites and help work to kind of dig into the data a little bit deeper, because what I'm showing you here is, of course, sort of a high level overview, but we need to, when we spot potential concerns, that's where we start with this high level look and then dig in and see if we can't figure out what could be the reason behind it and how can we remedy that. So there's some things in there that I've got a note for myself to follow up with our school folks on identifying what that could be attributing to that.
One of those, to me, just looking at this, Liberty Peak and Mountain View are statistically much higher than the rest of the schools. And I'm wondering, what are they doing different?
Yeah, good question. Questions from anyone on that slide? Okay.
Mr. Smith, since you said that was a good question Jeff asked.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys talk about that? Like, hey, Liberty Peak is doing
absolutely.
such and such, and it's really working well for them?
Yep. So when we go through the school performance plan process, those are regular conversations, regular things that come up. Because as you know, Susan, I think you participated in several of those, when goals are presented, lots of times this sort of data is included there. And, other school sites see those numbers and ask that question pretty regularly. And so there's pretty good conversation about that. And I've known in past years, it's even led to folks from one school following up and coming to a school to observe what it is that they mentioned that they're doing that might be attributing or is attributing to these results. So yeah, we do have a lot of collaboration and follow up on how success could be emulated at another school within the context of what works at that school.
Great. I like the fact that they get to visit another school and see, because sometimes you need to see it in action versus just someone telling you about it. So that's really
absolutely. Yep.
Mr. Smith, if I may, how How much does small class sizes dramatically impact this? So I guess what I'm saying is, what's the end value? At what point does a class become so small that it's not meaningful for us to be able to compare them?
Okay, so at what point does a class become so small?
Well, yeah, to a degree. I don't want to call it out, but
Oh,
I appreciate what
understand, I
Jackpot
understand.
Junior High has done.
Took me a second here.
But that huge change
Thank you for pointing that out, yeah.
is that because of a different class?
It's highly likely, yes. And you're right, that's one thing I forgot to point out. Thank you for bringing that up. I had a note and I must have missed it in my own writing here. But yeah, one thing to keep in mind is, because of our vast variability in student population, what you see here, and it's even more evident in, some upcoming slides, you do have to sort of, every bit of data that you look at, you have to take it with a little bit of an asterisk there, right? Or a grain of salt, whatever term you want to use, that, a school of 700 students versus a school of less than 100, each individual result impacts those overall scores quite a bit differently, right? So yeah, keep that in mind when you look at large fluctuations potentially, because a couple of students in certain locations represent a large percentage on the screen there. We don't want to take away, I don't want to say that to take away from any efforts that are being done and successes that are there. But yes, you do need to kind of keep that stuff in mind. I'm just throwing overall numbers up there. And then one other thing to point out too, you'll notice that there's some blank spots on the slide there. At some point, the n size gets small enough that you can't get statistically valid data. And then there's also potentially some privacy things. So certain data is not reported. So that would be an explanation for some of the missing information on any of the slides moving forward too. Sometimes we just don't have enough numbers to validate the results.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
Mr. Smith?
Mm-hmm.
I just thought of this. Do you think Lexia has helped? Because this is the first year that everyone's been using it, correct?
I should have remembered that one, Susan. Good job. Thank you for catching me. Yeah. So
I just thought of it right now.
Yeah,
So
hey, you were quicker than me still, because I hadn't come to it. So yeah, I guess I don't know that I personally have done anything that I would say, I have personal experience comparing data, so I'm going to be very careful here. I think that's potentially a contributing factor. I would say, with it being our first year of implementation, I would be careful to hang our hat solely on that. I'd like to see more time for our schools and teachers and students to become familiar with it, more information about usage and, correlating results to usage and things like that. I think there's definitely some potential that could be a contributing factor. And we've seen presentations. Mrs. Turner-Hughes given some information about usage. I was very encouraged by those numbers. I was very encouraged by some of the connections that were made in there. So I think, long rambling way of saying, potentially, yes, I'd like to know more before I definitively say one way or the other.
right. As always in education, we need more time than just 1 year to see if
Sure.
something works. So yeah, great.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on. This next slide, I know it's way too small to see everything that's on there, but again, just wanted to kind of put it out there to have it be in the record. It's a graphical representation of the same information that's in the chart on the previous slide, and something to review. Sometimes just gives a little bit quicker way to see trends upwards, flat lines, trends downwards. So just again, graphical representation of the same data. There was just no way to get it on the other slide and have it be anywhere near legible. Okay.
I've listened in on some of those school performance improvement plan meetings. Do you have all of this data with you at those meetings to where you can look at it and reference it to see if they are putting certain things in their improvement plan based off of this data?
So to directly answer your question, I don't necessarily show up to those with all of this data. Our schools show up with the data that they have used to determine the goals that they have in their plan. So no is the direct answer. I don't necessarily have this. But what I do before those things happen and before the plans are even worked on at the schools is I provide some starting point of information, especially with the board goals that you guys set the last couple of years. CJ and I worked to make sure that our site administrators were fully aware of those goals and fully aware that those goals aligned with what was going into our district performance plan so that they could have that information as they move forward with their school teams that put that together. And a large number of our schools aligned their school performance plans with that data, with slight nuances to it, I guess would be the term that I'll use. And the reason that we do that is that we want to balance that idea of schools selecting what is their priority goal, but also trying to have some connection to our district level goals and your goals as a board. So I don't necessarily show up to those meetings with this information because at that point, our schools have made their choices on what data they're using, but we do highly suggest and we do make sure we share this information with our site administrators so they can use that when they move into that process. And in fact, my plan, we have a administrative council meeting on Thursday, is to make sure that this presentation with all this data and even a little more additional stuff, school specific, is shared with our principals so they have this as a starting point when they move into those processes in August with their staff.
Thank you. And I love the invitations to those. I've sat in on, well, I think I sat in on a few in person, but most of the time I just Zoom in and.
Yeah, and we'll continue to do that. And hopefully you guys have an opportunity to join in for as many or as, even if you can make it for 10 minutes, that's great. We'd love for you to be a part of it. Pop in and out in person or virtually, whatever works for you. Okay, any questions on that slide? Again, I know hard to read, but wanted to make sure it was included there. I think I went a little too, I'm ahead of myself here. Okay, so now, same information, just switching content areas here to math. Again, projected proficiency numbers. Again, as you're kind of looking through that, some strengths to point out. 10 different schools had their highest projected proficiency in spring of 2026. 9 schools showed an improvement from 2025 to 2026. So again, good numbers of peak projected proficiency rates there. But again, looking at it through the lens of where do we have opportunities to grow, very similar to the previous slide with reading. We don't have a projected proficiency over 50% again. We do see some schools trending in the direction that we don't want to see things going. And so there's some places where we need to dig in a little further to the data to do what we can to remedy that and get that turned around. Questions on the math projected proficiency? Okay, switching slides again, just a graph showing the same information. So that's all the slides I have on the first metric, the projected proficiency number. Now we'll switch gears and talk about conditional growth percentile. So, proficiency is just a fixed bar where there's a line. Above it is proficient, below it is not. The other thing that we like to look at is growth, right? So conditional growth percentile is a metric of how much at a grade level view students in that grade level grew compared to similar grades across the nation. And so the word conditional in there, in this context for NWEA, means that there has to be certain conditions met. And in this case, it is schools that have similar starting points. So it's using our fall data where that grade level started. They also have to have similar amounts of instructional time on our fall and spring assessments. So of the hundreds of thousands of students and the thousands of schools who take this MAP assessment, the algorithm that they use weeds out schools that don't meet those conditions, and they're not included in this percentile number. And so this is just comparing our students to students who have similar academic levels and weeks of instruction, and then puts their growth from, in this case, spring of 25 to spring of, excuse me, make sure I get that right. Spring of 24 to spring of 25. And then ranks them in a percentile order, right? So the way to think about that is if there were 100 schools included, the school that had the most growth would be up at the 99th percentile. The school that had the least growth would be at 1, and then every other school would sort of, or grade level, excuse me, would be rank ordered there, right? So this report, the way to read it is to think about it, you know, that 50% percentile is right at the average. Anything above 50th percentile is above average growth. Anything below the 50th percentile is below average growth. So questions on what conditional growth percentile is and what all the numbers are that we're going to see here in a minute. Okay. So here's some district-wide levels again of our conditional growth percentile by grade level. You can see again, thinking about it through that perspective, that 50th percentile is sort of the benchmark to look at there. So we have some areas of strength, specifically as you look at the right side of the graph, all of our upper grades, for the most part, have above average growth numbers. And then opportunities for growth or concerns to look at is that we don't see that same thing happening on the left side of the graph. So that would be something to look at moving forward is why do we see that one place, that positive above average growth, and not in another area, right? What's going on there?
Well, based on that previous slide or the below 50 area of focus, what are we doing that would adjust curriculum or intervention with those? Because I'd see, 4 out of 12, so roughly 3/4 of that is below or needs adjustment. Sure. What are we doing?
So one of the big things that we're doing moving into next year is science of reading. I think Mrs. Turnahue has mentioned a little bit of information to you all about that, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here because sometimes I sit in other meetings and I know we've talked about it, but I think there's been at least some mention of that. So moving forward next year, each school, and this has been the case in the past, each of our elementary schools have a reading strategist and a dyslexia specialist, make sure I get the terms right. And those positions have existed in our schools for several years now. That's all in conjunction with the Read by Grade 3 legislation. But starting next year, there will be some specific science of reading trainings that all of our teachers at the elementary schools will be receiving. And that is, there'll be 5 early outs throughout the school year where there will be opportunities for those folks, the reading strategist and dyslexia specialist, to provide and present science of reading trainings to all of our elementary school teachers. And that science of reading focuses on 5 fundamental areas of reading. I won't be able to remember all of them off the top of my head here, but they're things like phonics, phonemic awareness, fluency. 3 out of 5, that's all right, right? So moving into next year, that's our big intervention to help hopefully see those numbers change.
So Mr. Smith, on this one where you're looking at growth, in this case, say you have a group of students they come into the school year and they're already really high. Let's just throw out a number, 20. Sure. I'm not saying that's a high, but let's say they're just at a 20, and you've got a group of students that are at a 5, and that group of students that's at a 5 grows to a 21. That's a huge amount of growth, right? Sure. But that student, and say 24 is your highest number, that student that's at a 20 that starts, their percentage of growth doesn't look as good if they're already well above average. So how does that correlate to this?
That's a good question, Teresa. I didn't necessarily look at that as far as what you just described there, so I don't have a great answer for that question, other than, you're absolutely right? When you're starting at a higher level, there's less, the ceiling, you're closer to the ceiling, I guess is the way to say it. So you're right. Again, back to the comment I made earlier, the asterisk or the little bit of in your mind, you think about interpreting data with that lens of what could be attributing to that. That could very well be an attribute that's causing these numbers to not be higher than they are. Potentially, yeah, you're right. Mhm. Any other questions on that slide? Okay. Switching over to math here. Again, same metric. Conditional growth percentile for math. Some relative strengths there in our 3rd and 8th grade numbers. But again, like to see those bars a little bit higher across the board. One thing that I ask myself, or I'm wondering as I looked at this, on the reading slide, we kind of saw that clear delineation from the right side to the left side. Don't necessarily see that here, right? It's kind of highs and lows and highs and lows. And so that's something I want to look into a little bit more as I've, put this data together. Why is it that we're seeing this up and down peaks and valleys as you kind of move from left to right on the slide there? So
I'm curious there, why does it stop at 8th grade?
That was because this data is pulled from the math growth assessment. Once students get into high school, they take course-specific tests. So because, for example, your freshman year, you'll take the algebra test, and then your sophomore year, you'll take the geometry test. You have to have 2 points in time to have a growth data point, and because those are 2 different assessments, you can't compare them. Whereas in this case, the student who takes that test in 7th grade, it's the same test in 8th grade. Obviously, the content's a little bit different, but high schoolers take different tests from one year to the next, so you can't do that comparison.
Mr. Smith,
Question?
to somewhat similar to that, the 8th graders who are taking advanced maths, I'm assuming their scores aren't in here?
Correct, yep, good point, yep. And I think we talked about that in a previous meeting, but I did forget to mention that. You're absolutely right. Those
thank you.
8th grade students who are taking advanced courses, which would be algebra, they're taking that course-specific assessment, algebra assessment, so they are not included in that. Correct.
And just so you know, in our district, we have 6th graders taking Algebra 1. So
Right.
you're
Yep,
going to
so
have
they're going to impact
kids
that number a little
is
bit.
from 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade.
Yep.
Or to be frank, 1 through 5 doesn't look that great right now. And when I'm looking, if this is based on 100, and we've got, for example, 2nd, 79% of districts around the country are doing better than us.
Yeah, lots of room for improvement.
That's one way to look at it.
Pardon me, do we break this down by, you have a breakdown just for the sake of time,
Breakdown by,
by site.
boom.
That's the next one. I'm getting ahead of myself.
No, you're good. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And again, this actually, the next couple of slides, so I think we've got 3 here for reading, color-coded blue for no reason other than it was the default color that comes up in Excel when I made these charts, so don't read too much into that. But yeah, there's exactly what you're asking there, Jeff, or excuse me, Josh. By grade level, by school. One more slide there. And again, keeping in mind some of those things we've already talked about, different schools, different numbers of kids, they represent, larger numbers and influencing that overall score. You've got different things that factor into it. So, as you look through that information, keep context in mind. So one thing I'll just point out a couple of things that I noticed as I looked through this and put this together. We've got some pockets of some really high growth percentiles in the 70s and 80s, and there's even an example in the high-end 90s percentile at one of our schools. So we've got some pockets of some real great things going on. I think we have 20 schools represented in those slides here. 17 of those individual schools have at least one grade level demonstrating above average growth. And so one of the things that I would say as I look at that, that I would present to our principals when I do that later on this week is, take a look at your individual data here and look at those grade levels that are showing that above average growth and kind of taking that same approach of what is it that's going on there that could potentially be emulated in other grades, or that if you have an opportunity within your own school community where there's an example of good results happening, can you work to provide opportunities for teachers in those other grades to see what's going on or have conversations with those teachers who are having successes and figure out how that could hopefully be moved across your grade levels there and impact a higher number of kids. And so something to share with principals and challenge them, I guess I'll say, or ask them to look a little more into, and how can we use those strengths within your school building to make those above average numbers happen more frequently. One thing that I do notice that concerns me is that there's not an across the board above average growth percentile. And so that's something I'd like to see as we move forward. Again, what can we do to find those successes, make it more commonplace across a school campus or across grade levels? Make sure okay, yep. So any questions on those three slides by school, by grade level? Okay, so then the next set of slides, same thing, just math. Again, only picked red, not to make it scary. Maybe I should have picked a less ominous color, but it was the next one on the continuum there. And so don't read anything into it. Doesn't mean anything other than it was just the next color that I saw, and I wanted to distinguish reading from math in the presentation here. And so we've got 3 slides there, shows similar information. Again, I'll point out that there are 10 schools that have at least one grade level showing above average growth. So again, I would point that out to principals and say, let's work to identify what's going on there and try to find ways to emulate that. But then again, also looking at the same thing, we've got some areas of low growth, and we need to figure out what is contributing to that and how do we remedy those things. And so point that out to our site administrators, and hopefully when teachers come back in the end of summer, early fall, then they start digging into that information. They can identify those areas of concern and figure out what's going on so we can get those things remedied.
Mr. Smith, I have a question just in general. Are we utilizing any AI protocols? Is there any plan to use AI protocols? Because what you're describing seems to be let's just say old school way of doing this, where we sit down and then we hash it out. It doesn't seem like we're using tools that are available to us. So are we running these through models to see where they can identify? There's certain AI tools you can use that will identify trends associated with it, right? So like Flagview, as Flagview got their 5th graders, it feeds from these schools, so it would know that, and then you could look at those different things. Does this software have that, or is there anything we're planning on using?
Software like NWEA?
Yeah, wherever you're getting this data from.
So, yes, I used AI to identify strengths and weaknesses and point out some of the things that I'm saying I found them, but I didn't.
Yeah. I get you.
And then, and our site folks are certainly using that information a lot. I wouldn't go so far as to say that we have dictated that they use that, or that they use one particular way to do that, but I do know that our sites are doing that.
Okay. Just the idea, because even a year ago when we talked about it, I got pushback, not just here, but out in the community. And so I'm like, what? Now we're a year later into this AI experiment. I'm just wondering if we're using it to try and figure these things out, because some of these numbers are pretty disturbing overall. So
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I think the next slide is the questions slide, so we can get to that. Also read, yeah, absolutely. And so I guess I will say to you guys on the board there, that's a lot of information thrown out at once. I feel like my goal, and hopefully I accomplished that, was to provide a little more than surface level information for you. And so hopefully that's there, but then also not bog it down so much. I mean, it still ended up being 20-something slides, so I apologize for that, but probably easily could have made it 50 or 60 if necessary. But if there are things in there that prompt other questions that maybe you don't think of right away, or you need a little bit of time to review that, send those my way, send them to Mr. Anderson, send them to Hillary, and I'd be glad to look further into it, provide you with some additional insight or follow-up information, anything that you might need related to that. I'd be glad to do that.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah.
I appreciate the breakdown by school and really look, so we are able to look at the data, because I think that helps in decisions. And this may be a question maybe more for Cassie, but I know, and Brooke took the class as well. Is there anything when you do the school performance plans, or when you're looking at things that maybe a school needs more money to do something versus another school? Like, are budgets adjusted based on some of these needs? Or is that more a budget question?
Yeah, the short answer is that's not something that we do a lot of, but we do have conversations with principals, and we work collaboratively with them whenever it's possible to try to find ways to bridge gaps. And so I guess I won't say there's a formal structure necessarily for doing that, but I can think of instances where requests have come up, and we try our best to not just say no, and we try to work to find ways to do that. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not. So I can't say that yes, there is, or no, there's not. It's really, I guess, situationally dependent would be the best response that I could give you at this point.
Yeah. And that's why I like looking at the data by school, just because to me, it shows the unique challenges we have at different communities, different schools, and sometimes you would need to adjust their budget versus somebody else's to make accommodations to help them out with that. So I'm glad that it's looked at and you try to.
And I guess I'm sorry, Susan. Sorry.
That's okay.
One other thing that I'll point out is, this information is readily available to our sites prior to their fiscal year starting. And so they can make, and I know that they do because I've talked with several of our principals who do that. They do make budgetary decisions on their own site budgets to support some of the areas of need that they see here. And so, a lot of that happens at the site level before it even comes to us, right? Our principals are making those sort of informed decisions based on this information. And then, on the times where they are a little bit short or feel like they could use some support somewhere, that's when they bring us in. And so I want to be very clear that I full-heartedly believe that a lot of that is happening at the district level by the people that we have working there.
Okay.
Those kind of decisions. And they get input from the teaching staff quite a bit. I mean, I know that was a pretty common practice when I was a principal in the spring. We would sit down with teachers and grade levels and, ask and help them, and they would kind of identify to us, they would help us, excuse me, I said that wrong, identify priority needs that are going to help them to address the concerns that they see with their students. And so a lot of those decisions are done by the folks at the site level who know those kids the best.
Great. That's good to know. Thank you.
I wanted to kind of elaborate on that a little bit in that what is the solution here? Is it more money? Is it more teachers? Is it more, like, what, as a board member, do I need to be doing when I go talk to a legislature or I'm lobbying or I'm talking to other, what do I need to be doing to get these numbers up? And maybe that's not a question to answer right now, but
that's a difficult one to answer.
That's a question I'm asking, but that's a legit question that I need an answer for. And not today, not how, but we need to come up with a plan as a board and as a staff to realize, look, I've been looking at these numbers now for 4 or 5 years, and I'm just gonna be blunt, they're not great. They're not great, and they're not changing. And so why are we doing the same thing over and over again? What do we gotta do different? That's where my head's at right now, and that's the answers that I want, so that I can, as a board member and a board president, I can go out and try and be as effective as I can be to help change those.
Sure. And again, like you said, that's
the seed I want to plant right now.
There's a lot to that question, right? And I don't feel like I could tackle it or should tackle it.
And I'm not asking you
I don't want Mr. Anderson to come back and say, you said what?
But that's,
know,
that's
but-
the question I have going forward.
Sure, but I think it's a valid question, and I'll just, in 10 seconds or less here, say, in my own opinion, one of the big things is identifying what are your priorities, right? And paying, and collectively working on those things, and then paying attention to those things. Doesn't mean we don't, doesn't mean we completely ignore or forget other things, but it's identifying priorities and collectively getting everybody on board to the greatest extent that you can with that, and then focus on those and run with those. That's my 10-second response to
Sure.
to that question.
And
It
I'm
may be
sure
incomplete.
it's a combination of everything. And I think a lot of it really comes down to parents even. When we're talking about, if you got 40% reading comprehension, that's 60% of parents are okay with their kids not reading at grade level. And that's, how do we reach them? Or how do we get that more, we need to get more programs going in the home with parents reading with their kids. There's a million ways to do that, but I'd like to proactively try and compile that list, and let's start checking those boxes and knocking them down and do everything we can to get these up moving forward.
Does Cody look at this data and see trends in different schools and see maybe schools are improving or their proficiency is declining, and look at that and look at who the administrator is or who the teachers are? Like, do you have any kind of a data that you look at to where you can see this teacher has a lot of new or this school has a lot of new teachers at grade levels, or this school is heavy with permanent subs or has a new administrator, and have that correlate to any of that data to where maybe pieces and people need to be moved to improve one school site that maybe is struggling? No. Because I'm just curious if we have one school that's got a lot of really new teachers or permanent subs or anything, that maybe that's a reason why one school struggles, elementary school or something, over another one.
That's a very loaded question. Thank you. A quick answer is yes. One of the benefits of having an HR person that has a background in education, they get to go through and look at this. A lot of it is, I'm bound obviously by contract and policy and what I can do with regards to shuffling, specifically in my position, but I do bring that attention to the principals and say, hey, this person may have had a specific, I'll ask the question along the lines that this one teacher has lower test scores, proficiency rates than the other teacher, and then I'll ask that. And they might say, well, that teacher, because there's so many different dynamics, that teacher might have had a lot more behavior problems. Those other teachers may have had a paraprofessional in those classes. So yes, there's lots of just components that are there. Me as an HR guy, it's very difficult for me to shuffle and play chess basically with other people's schools. It's just not within policy or within contract to make me do that. But bring that attention to principals, absolutely.
So then, do you ever have principals come and advocate for their school by saying, we have way more new teachers than XYZ schools do? Like, they all have seasoned teachers and that's why they're doing so well in test scores. Does that ever happen where they say, we had this influx of new teachers, or we have more permanent subs than another school does, to where there are some chess pieces moved so that one school doesn't have an advantage over another or something?
I think I do that more than they do because they're responsible for their own staffing. They're responsible for their own professional development within those buildings. So I think your statement usually comes more from me. We have obviously a very large district with a lot of components, and I'm one of those people that strongly believes that you do not fight fires from a fire station. You put the people in place, you let them, you trust them, and then you hold them accountable. And that's what those conversations. So usually that would be from my side to them more than them saying, oh, they got more new teachers and more experience. I'm like, well, you were the one that recommended those teachers. You're the one that put the effort into the background checks, those types of things. Then we do have some tough conversations. And Ray will be, there's been a few times where I've said, I told you so, and those types of things. And then it doesn't change too much, but that's happened.
Along those lines, I'd like to say we should be looking at everything. If that's not something we're looking at, maybe we should be. Because what we're doing consistently right now isn't working.
And I think the principles are, and I think that's one of the benefits of, especially at the elementary level, where people can go through and within negotiated agreement and within policy, change teachers to different grade levels. That happens a lot. That's one of the benefits of being a principal. They can look at their test scores. They say, okay, this is what your strength, I think you did good in second grade. I think you're going to do much better in fourth grade this year. And that allows them to do that. And then, of course, they make various recommendations based on behavior problems or just basic class sizes. I mean, we have some classes that'll be right now are at 29. And so those principals are reaching out, advocating for additional staffing, which of course I've denied. And then now we're working on alternatives and how we can maybe split some students up, maybe get parapros that they have already on staff into those classes.
Mr. Smith, if I may, a year's a long time. Who knows who will be in which positions in a year, but if you're still in this position, I'd love to see, if you're going to change the presentation, great, change it, but at the same time, I'd love to see comparisons of year over year over year. I'd like to see what the cohort for fourth grade went into fifth grade. I'd like to see where that trajectory is, because no matter how many teachers we have, no matter how many administrators we have and what they're trying to do, the reality is it's the kids that are taking the test. And so are we seeing the same kids doing well, and that accounts maybe for this up down, I don't know. But I'd like to see that. And if there's any way to perhaps go back to the 2023, spring 2023, when we had our goals that we were looking at, maybe we could track those cohorts through to see what it looks like. Obviously, you have a workload that I'm not going to micromanage, but if that's a possibility, it'd be interesting to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I get your point exactly. I think I might try to use some AI help on that.
Yeah, tracking by graduating class
Help
would
me out a
be
little bit.
easier to
And I
follow
don't
the
mean that to
same
be
groups.
too
No,
smart.
I get it.
That's
Guys, please
as
take
my mind
it.
goes. I think that's, try to limit that.
I'm not
effort
asking-
part so that I can
I didn't
provide
ask
that for
anything
you.
I don't
think it's a
already do
valid-
with my business.
Valid question, and
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely.
I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, I apologize.
Distracted.
Can I just ask something? And I'm sure this is not allowed, but in one of the courses that I took, they were talking about how most of your budget as a district goes to staffing. And then they were talking about teachers that have really good test scores and teachers who maybe are struggling a little bit. And they just threw out there, and I'm sure it's not possible. I'm just wondering what would have to happen to make this possible, or if we could even do it, or if it's possible to even make it possible. Anyway, they talked about how, let's say, for instance, there's a second grade class or a school with second grade classes. And you have one teacher that's a rock star teacher that every year over year, her class is seeing improvement in test scores, lots of growth, all these things. And maybe there's a teacher who is struggling and you're seeing kids' test scores maybe declining or they're not growing. And so they offered up the idea of maybe giving the teacher, this rockstar teacher, a stipend to take extra kids into their class. So because they have it down so well, like they would take 26 kids in their class and then have the teacher that's struggling a little bit to see that improvement in their class only maybe have 20 kids in their class. So you pay the teacher a little bit more in a stipend or something to have a bigger class and to reduce the workload on the teacher who's struggling a little bit to try and even that out or to help that teacher have.
So my mind goes a lot of different places there with that question. We've got negotiated agreements,
Yes.
contracts, legal, lots of things to look at. I don't want to say
Yeah, there
that's
would,
not,
there
but,
would have to
but
be a lot of
pretty
things
immediately my
happen.
mind starts thinking there would be a lot of things to cross off there. Could be potentially something to pursue, but there would be a lot of steps between where we sit today and what you described there being in place, I guess I'll say. So.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing about that too is they brought up how sometimes these rock star teachers, these all-star teachers, they end up getting more of the problemed kids in their classes that have behavioral issues or are in need of more help. And so they end up having a class that's actually a lot harder than the other teachers that teach the same grade level. They're still getting paid the same amount, but their job's a lot harder. Anyways, and they're still seeing growth, even though they're getting the harder class. So I don't know, just a lot to think about there, and wondering if there were things that we could do in negotiated agreements or whatever that would make it possible for us to maybe increase the workload on those teachers, but that they would see, you know, a stipend or something added to their paycheck to make up for that, and then reduce the workload of the teacher who is maybe new and still trying to get their feet on the ground. So the kids in their class can be successful also, because they have a little bit more attention.
I see exactly what you're saying, and I see, you know, maybe potentially some value in it. I would say, I just want to be very clear, there'd be a lot of things that we'd have to work out to do that. Doesn't mean we can't be looked into, but, you know, I probably just even tip of the iceberg of where my brain goes initially. The more we think about it, we'd probably find more steps that would need to be done to implement something like that. One other thing that I didn't do a very good job of looking at my notes, but I do want to make sure that we say this, just related to all of those things, and everything related to this presentation. And of course, you know, in this new role that I'm moving into here, it's got the word assessment in my role, right? So obviously, assessment and testing is a big part of what I'm going to do, what I'm doing and going to be doing. And so I don't want to diminish anything that's there, but I do also think it's worth saying that, you know, assessment results represent one piece of the bigger puzzle that we look at, right? And I think I've gone on record in previous meetings saying that, you know, I want our kids to be successful in everything they do, right? Including testing. But I would also say it's not the end-all, be-all measure of success in our schools, right? We have lots of successes happening that are very difficult to measure through a test. Or not even measured through a test, right? It's through the way it feels when you walk in the door, when you walk down the hallway, and people are enjoying their time being there, right? It's in the number of people who want to come to be in a school, even though they're maybe not zoned to be in that school because they know there's good things going on. And so just keep that in mind, that this is one piece of the overall puzzle or the overall picture of the things that are going on in our schools. Again, don't mean that to serve as any kind of an excuse or to diminish anything. Of course, I want to see those numbers get better. I want to see everything that we present get better and better and better, and our kids be more and more and more successful in testing aspect of their lives, in personal aspects of their lives, relationship, you know, all of those things that our schools provide. And so I do just want to say that this is one snapshot in time, or maybe a couple of points in time, but one measure that we use, and we need to look at it all together to formulate our overall picture of the things that are going on in our schools.
Mr. Smith, thank you for saying that, because our students are so much more than their, you know, math test or their reading test. So much more. So I appreciate
100%
that. That's definitely, you know, in your purview as you're taking on this new role and looking at, you know, how do we really measure success for our students? And, you know, this is one little piece. So thank you.
I just want to make one comment, and I'll be the bad guy. But, you know, I sit here and I listen to how we don't know why people are leaving and we continue to lose children. And then we have this conversation year after year. And I'm just going to tell you that this is why, because people want their kids to test appropriately, because they want this to grow up. They want this to move up. They want these numbers to be better. So I completely disagree, and I can't sit here anymore, as I have year over year, and just gloss over this. This is why, because we have numbers. We have schools with single-digit numbers. Do we want whole We want children that are, absolutely. We have all these state champions that came in here. We're not going to discount that. I'm not going to discount the hard work that teachers or administrators are doing. I'm just telling you, as a whole, the district is losing students at unprecedented numbers, and these numbers are telling you what's going on. And we're like, it's okay. Students are doing okay because they're champions. They're state champions at sports, but they don't know how to read and they barely know how to do math. So while I appreciate you and I respect all of you and I respect everyone that's here trying to do stuff, please stop having that conversation because it's just giving you your baseline that it's okay to continue to be mediocre, okay? And we need to continue to elevate. If you want public school to be what it should be and you want public school to elevate, then we need to stop having the conversation that this one component doesn't matter when it's the whole sole purpose that the students are here. And so I just disagree, and I just can't sit here and take that and listen to that one more time. So I apologize if I offended everybody, but something needs to be said.
I don't disagree with you. I think that we have been accepting mediocrity for too long as a community, not just as a district, not just as board members, as teachers, as everyone, as parents. Everyone's responsible for this, and we need to change. We need to, what we're doing is not working. We need to, for me, everything is on the table. I know lots of sports, athletes, they have things in their contract. They're paid for performance. And for me, something like that's possibly on the table too. We'll look into this more, but it's hard to look at. I'll leave it at that too. But I don't disagree. I think we need to really look at what we're doing here and what we're going to do to change these results and what we can all, from us sitting here in these chairs, what we can do to facilitate that. So like I say, for me, everything's on the table. Anything further from the board? All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. And that'll segue right into the superintendent's report, item 5.01.
Sure, thank you. So you guys have listened to me for a long time here. I'll be quick here, so you don't have to be subjected to that too much more. But do want to just point out a couple of things. We do have another congratulations in order to our Wells High School Student Council. They won the Nevada Association of Student Councils 1A Academic State Champions with a GPA of 3.819. So I just want to read those kids' names aloud here so we can give them a round of applause also. And we have Carly Olin, Marley Dahl, Angela Hernandez, Ariana Rodriguez, Shelby Bertolato, Carson Ballard, Aaron Hansen, Stacia Hansen, Riley Joe Glasscock, Cassidy Runyon, Isaac Gale, Aiden Rogers, Adriana Corral, Jess Wright, and Coulter Runyon. So a lot of kids there with, have an average of 3.89. That's or 3.819 GPA. That's a pretty impressive number. So I want to say congrats. Don't want to steal too much of your thunder because I'm sure a few of you will mention some of the graduation ceremonies that you went to over the last week here too, but I do want to just give a formal congratulations to our 2026 graduates. Wish you all the best of luck in your future endeavors, and go forth and conquer. And then lastly, a big thank you to our teachers and our staff, transportation employees, everybody who worked tirelessly over the course of this school year to make things as successful as they could possibly be for all of us and for our students. Enjoy your well-deserved time off for those of you who are starting your summer breaks. Enjoy your time with your families and the things that you do in summer to be rejuvenated to come back for next year. And to our parents and students, we appreciate everything that you've done. I hope you enjoy your time off, and we'll be working hard to be ready for you next school year. So that's it for me.
Thank you. All right, any questions? Board? All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 6.01, a NASB update. Trustee Neal, do you have anything?
Just one thing about the awards and nominations. I created a spreadsheet that I believe Hillary sent out to you. So if you want to send in any more names, that you have, you can send them to Hillary or myself. I've been trying to put, you may want to look at it again. If I know something about like why the person was nominated, I put that in the spreadsheet so you'd know, because some of those, I mean, I see the names, I'm like, oh, okay, but I don't know why someone wants to nominate them. And because we're limited on the amount of people, I tried to put in what I knew of why somebody put in someone's name. And I don't have all of them filled out because I don't know about all of them. But I did try to put a little note in there so you had some additional information. And then I also put in there how many people we can nominate. I did ask Rick on a few of those that didn't list or didn't say how many you could nominate, if that meant we could nominate 5 or whatever. And he said, yes, if it doesn't have a number, we can nominate as many as we want. So, and that will be up to you, but hopefully we can vote at the next meeting of who the people you want to nominate so that we can start working on getting the nominations written up, because those are due in August and I have a hard time with last minute things. So I'd rather start earlier than later. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Datstrup, anything on NASB?
Nothing to add at the moment.
All right, and nothing from me this week either. So we will move on to 6.02, board member comments and requests for future agenda items. Do we have anything? We're going to start on the end, or?
Sure, I'll go ahead and go. I was able to go to Wells and Owaihi's graduations this year. I really love the small school graduations. I just think they're so personal and it's fun to see the whole community really shows up to support these kids, and they were both really great. When I was in Owaihi, I drove around the school that's being built after the graduation was over, and I'm sure it caught me on camera. They were probably wondering who the heck it was, but that was me, and it all looks really good. So one thing I'll say is at Owaihi, I really loved it. They let all of the kids like decorate a spot on the wall around the gym, and then as soon as the graduation's over, the kids go stand in front of that spot, and then they kind of have a, what would you call it? Like a reception? Yeah, like a reception type thing where everybody is able to walk through and congratulate each kid. And I thought that was really a cool idea. The only other thing that I'll add is I did a little class webinar on how districts can tap federal tax credit scholarships. And I don't know if anybody is aware of that yet here, but evidently there was a law, and it permits school districts to participate drawing on a brand new source of funding. And then it's people can, so it comes from federal taxes. People can donate up to $1,700 of what they would pay in federal taxes, and it's dollar for dollar. So they are able to claim that as a deduction. And so it's actually not any money that's coming out of their pocket. And from what I read and what I watched on this webinar, it says that school districts can tap into that. And so that could be a new source of some revenue for our district I think we should look into.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. I could say I want $1,700 going to Elko County School District rather than going to Washington, D.C.
Yes. But how that would work is you have to have, I didn't even take notes because I was listening to it while I was doing other work today. I think, is it called an SGO? It's a scholarship. It's got to be a nonprofit. So they talked about how your state has to have opted into this, and our state has opted into it. And then you have to have, I think it's an SGO. I'll look into it more. And I'm going to share all this information with Cassie. But they have to be approved by the state to be this nonprofit that the money goes towards. And then that our district can partner with that SGO. And then they would give funds. Like, so if you wanted $1,700 of your federal tax
And I
dollars to go
apologize,
to
I
that
guess-
SGO, it would then go to the district.
I guess this could be deliberation. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like for you to put this on the agenda, not to put any pressure on you, but somebody, either you or staff, if we can put this on the agenda, I'd like to very much discuss this more, but I don't want to get into deliberation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
let's not get into discussion, but we definitely could put it on and you
Yeah.
can bring some more information forward
And
on that
that's-
and let's do it. Yeah.
Yep, it sounds like it's kind of something that they don't have all of the rules and regulations really tied down on that yet, but they have enough, right? They know enough that they're really encouraging districts to get started in this process, so that when you can start collecting those dollars in 2027, like you have everything lined up and you're ready to be able to do that and have that as an additional funding source.
Yeah, work on some more info and we'll get that on right away.
Yep, will do.
Thank you.
All right, I'll just say congratulations to all the graduates. It was really fun to be at a variety of different graduations, and I love the different personalities that you get to see of each graduation ceremony at each school, which is fantastic. Also, just as a thought, the students we generally see in the boardroom, I think are the ones that we see high numbers on our higher numbers. I think it's the students we don't get to see that that are on the lower end. That's not 100%, obviously. But when students are involved, they have to have higher grades. They have to do well in order to be involved. So maybe something we need to be looking at is, how do we get our students more involved? If we get a new teacher here, how do we keep them here? We give them an extra opportunities, like being a coach, doing something they love. So, how do we help these kids love learning? How do we help them find something that they're passionate about that makes them want to be in school, that makes them want to keep their grades up? And those are the kinds of discussions that, can make a difference in how do we bring numbers up? Well, we have kids that want to be there. We have parents who are happy to send their kids to school because they're excited that their child is excited to be there. So just throwing that out there. And that's all. Thanks.
I'd like to echo congratulations to the graduates, to our staff and teachers, so forth, for putting on an entire year worth of education. And I also appreciate the folks that put together the ceremonies, law enforcement, et cetera, for keeping us safe. Speaking of safe, have a safe summer. Let's not make any stupid choices, but of course that's part of learning too. But let's be safe out there. Don't want any tragedies. Thank you all.
Let's see, I had a list in my brain. First one, went to EHS graduation and the NNVA graduation. That was it was a pleasure to be there and a privilege. Both actually were very well done. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to all the district staff that is involved in that. And both of them, it was fantastic. Still at Battleborn and adult ed. Yep. So that will be great to be a part of. A couple things I'd love, and I know that this is, there's always a weird conversation to have, but I'd love to see a policy that associates a consequence with these testing then. Because over the years, there's always, and I mean this very lovingly, a scapegoat associated with any challenge the district has. And so I'd love to start eliminating some of those and to see, and while we can point fingers at teacher, student, parent, like the Spider-Man meme, I'd love to try and just put something in there where there is some sort of a consequence associated with that. Because then, just like we did with pay to play, right? You want the discount, we're gonna put that in there so you have to. So something along the spirit of that, if you will. Hey, we're doing MAPS testing this week. I can't tell you how many times in 11 years mom and dad came in with their kids to my clinic in the middle of the day because it was MAPS testing and we didn't care anymore. So that eliminates the argument that, hey, we're missing certain kids, especially if we associate it with some sort of, and I say consequence, but I hope you get the gist of it. So next, this one's kind of out of left field. Everyone's gonna, you guys will blink your eyes a little bit, but I've had a couple folks talk to me about meetings and meeting times. We're gonna consistently have our 4-hour meeting times or 5-hour meeting times, and we're going to travel. I would really like to have the conversation of pushing this back. One of my big pushes is these guys over here who, some of them get here at 6 a.m. and then they're here until, 10, 9:30, 10. And then especially when we go to like other schools, which is great, but that's another hour and a half, 2-hour drive as well. So now they've been here for 12, 14 hours. I'd love to see that. On top of, I'll put in my own little selfish plug, just so everyone knows, Wednesday is my second busiest day. So Monday is about 100, 110. Wednesday is about 110 to 120 people. I cannot afford personally to be out at 11:30 to try and get up and start my day the next day. It's just too hard, which is why, as you've noticed, I can't travel anymore. So if we're going to continue to have meetings, which if that's the business of the board, that's the business of the board, I get it. But I would love to have the conversation, maybe we push it back. When I looked, even an hour would help everybody out just a bit. If we were just across the board, like 4:15 would give a half an hour between school out in most of the schools that we're at. So, but at 4:30 then would give 45 minutes to an hour depending on the site level. So I would love to have that conversation, just so we can, do business, but also folks can have lives too as well. Because it is every other week. So unless it's an emergency, I don't understand why there would be as much as we have. So, and with that, I think I'll just rest.
Thank you. Trustee Temple?
My turn. So I was able to attend Jackpot's graduation. It was like Brooke was saying, small graduation. There was 11 students, and we got to see pictures when they were kids. It was just so emotional. All the parents were crying. I cried a little bit. It's just, small graduations are great. I love them. And Stormy and everyone else, they're doing a great job. Another thing they did that they translated everything in Spanish. So most of those students were Hispanic. And I was like, this is great. Like inclusion, they're doing everything they can to support those kids and the families and make sure that those families participate and they're there with their kids. They were wearing, every family was wearing a different color. With blue and pink, so you knew what student they were for. And it was just like, oh, this is great. Like how small school can just be just one big family. And that was just great. And then I got a plan from them too. So thank you for that. Another went to Spring Creek. We had a power outage too before graduation, like minutes before. And they all got together, got generators out, and we started graduation like 5 minutes late, maybe. And it was just like how everyone gets together and makes everything happen. And it's just great. We have good teachers and great students. We need to do better. And another thing, this is with the scores, math scores. My daughter doesn't take that test. She's special needs, like everyone knows, but she had a teacher when she was in Adobe. And this teacher, she said, she's mean. She's mean. She asks too much from me. Well, and that, when she was there, that's when she learned more. That's when she learned how to read a little bit. She doesn't know how to read. That's when this teacher sat down with me and told me, she can learn, and we're gonna do everything so she can learn. And all the other teachers that she has in the past, they're nice. And they're like, yeah, she's great, but she didn't want to do anything today. And I'm like, well, she didn't want to, but just make her work and she'll do it. And maybe that's what we need. The teachers like, yeah, the students don't want to do anything. Maybe it's a bad day for them, but we have to make them work. That's what they go to school for. And that's it. I think, have a great summer. We'll see you here next meeting.
Thank you. Trustee Neal, do you have anything for us?
Yes, I'll try to make it briefer than normal. There was a Wells Fine Arts Night. I think this is the third year I've gone. They do a great job of presenting artwork, music, and a play. So shout out to them and shout out to we had them at a board meeting, the Mountain View Scout meeting. They were learning about different types of bird beaks. And then they were making them like using straws, and then they laid out pretend food and were trying to pick it up. It was so fun to watch, and they were having a great time. So that's such a cool after school activity, and they just sign up for it if they want to show up that day or not. So that was fun. I got a bird feeder. That was great. And then I did attend a meeting with, and I can't remember his name. But he's from Clark County, about the Nevada Educator Performance Network regarding the performance improvement plan and the SB 460 legislative changes that Clark County wants to suggest some changing in those words and provide better clarification and some changes in the timeline. Because right now it's possible for a teacher that was actually like probationary, and Mr. Smith, if I get this wrong, please feel free to correct. And then for whatever reason, something goes wrong, and so they go into a warning year, and then they're put on probation again. It could actually be a 5-year process before we can, I don't want to say get rid of, but before you can make any changes to a teacher, and that could be 5 years of ineffective teaching. So there's some changes, and they've gotten into some lawsuits. So they sounded like good changes to me that actually are beneficial. So just so that you guys are aware of that. I also attended a Title I Commission of Practitioners meeting talking about how funding can be spent in regards to Title I grants, which Ms. Dahlke would probably know more about that than me, but they also were discussing how to better share information with their Title I families, like how do we share that? So there's some common ground in there of what all of you talked about tonight. I attended a meeting out at Battleborn regarding their steps for accreditation and working with the school district or possibly becoming a charter school themselves. Nothing, of course, was decided there. I also spoke with the vice president of it's called Cartwheel. And I've told Mr. Anderson about it and shared the information with Emily and Candace as well. It's a program that if they are to get this grant, they would be working with UNR, and they want us to be a pilot district. It would be free of charge to us for 5 years. And what they do is they provide Nevada certified professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists. These people can even prescribe medications. They would have flexible hours. The wait time to get into them would be shorter. They would work around schedules, and they're working, of course, with parents and students. And what would happen is they bill the family's insurance, but they also take Medicaid. And in between all of that, they also make accommodations for those either without insurance or aren't on Medicaid. So to me, it sounded like a great idea, but like I said, I've presented it to Mr. Anderson, and they're going to meet with him and talk some more about it. It kind of fell into my lap. So I'm like, it sounds like a wonderful opportunity that doesn't cost us anything. The most it would cost us would be for Kayla to do some advertising. So it really did sound, and I think they're only in one other school in Nevada, but yet they're in a lot of places, Midwest, back east. And I too, like the rest of you, enjoyed graduation at Spring Creek High School and Wendover High School. It's West Wendover High School, sorry. It's exciting to see the different graduations that people have and just what a good job they do putting that all together. So congratulations to all of them. And then 2 more things on the agenda. I would like to see at some point the data about the Cook Center and how effective that is. And also it appears to me we have quite a difference of opinions on what we should do to improve our district, and difference of opinions on testing, et cetera. And I think that's something for either a special workshop or something that needs to be discussed more, that didn't come out right. Discussed more on something we can all talk about, because I think that needs to be more in depth. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Turned it off. Keep my comments brief too. I attended Wells in West Wendover last week. It was amazing as always. One thing I noticed there early in my school board career when I went to those graduations, the heat was nearly unbearable in both places. And this year was amazing. Everything, the HVAC is working great. Both places were packed. So there's plenty of BTUs radiating from everyone, and they still were able to keep the temperature down. So good job on that as far as getting those sites up to spec. I need to inform you all that Board Docs is migrating board meetings starting on Thursday with the upgrade to the platform. That's going to be moving rapidly to transition this summer. So you'll see some changes to that. Try and keep abreast of that and let us know if there's any issues or problems that you see. What else was I going to add? I'm like you, the train derailed. I'm hung up on numbers, and it's just something that's got me. But I think they matter a little more than to me, they do. They affect ratings in schools. They affect whether people move to our community or not. They can affect property values. It's bigger than what we make it out to be, I think. And I wonder if we shouldn't look at perhaps an all-out focus or a blitz one year of not necessarily just test scores, but I mean, reading. It's important for kids to know how to read. And I talked about that where we got some schools that are approaching where, 80% of the kids don't read at grade level, and that just puts them behind from the start. And if we can figure out a way to get with those parents to help or start a program, something that becomes all encompassing, that says, no, this really is important. And because I mentioned earlier, what we're doing right now, I mean, I know we're trying things and I don't want to discount. I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but we do need to look at what we're doing. We do need to change. We can't continue to do the same things over and over again and expect a different result, because that just doesn't make sense. So I really, really want to look into this. And I think if we're going to make these test scores a focus of goals that we have as a board, in these past 3 years, it's about time to re-up on that. And I think we should look harder at it. That's all I'm going to say, because I know we're going to have more information on this, and I'm going to work to bring more to you on this as we move forward through the summer. But I would like to hit the ground running by the time school starts. We got a couple meetings to figure out. I know we can't necessarily make major change, but I would like to get the answers to those questions that I did ask, which were, what can we as a board do? What can we as a district do to move the needle on this, to get these scores up? Because that's the true metric that we are being judged by. So whether we believe it's not important or not, I know that a feeling walking into a school is very important, but that's subjective, and it's not something that's measurable. And it's not something we convey to somebody who isn't there to feel it for themselves. So we have to look at this stuff, and we can do better. We can do better as a board. We can do better as a district. We can do better as a community, as families, as parents. Even the kids can do better. So let's push for that. That's what we're here for. With that, I'm going to move on to item 7.01, input from the public. Is there any input from the public? Hearing none, we will adjourn. Thank you, everyone.